Hello, welcome everybody. Effect here again with part 2. This is going to be my intermediate level guide for gunning. If you are Master Plus, Respected Plus perhaps, this is going to be for you. The first thing I'm going to talk about is going to be looping. So looping is when you're going to take preferably one arrow, but maybe two arrows, to create a loop around a cannon. So example here, if I put this arrow here, all the pieces are going to loop around it. So all you have to do is wait till they come by, put them in, and you can do cannons like that. And you can move on to your next loop. And you can do it like this. So now I have all the pieces going around this cannon. And when they get over, you can just shove them in. And I'm not going to load this one because I want to keep my stat low so my minimum speed doesn't go up too much. Some cannons are a little harder to loop than others, so like this one does work, but it's kind of small, so this may be difficult for you when you're learning to do a loop this tiny, but nevertheless there's a loop there. This one has a pretty easy one too. Pieces come down here, hit here, hit here, hit here. And looping is a very easy way to learn how to gun. It's not too play intensive, I should say, but it gets you the pieces. If you want to learn how to do it the really hard way, but the more optimal way, you're going to learn how to do freestyle, which has, you don't loop pieces at all, you just kind of hunt around the board for what you want, which is like really hard, but if you can learn how to do it, it's insanely fast. It's not the way I gun, so I don't know if I can give you that good of an example of it, but if you can learn how to do it, you can get really good. Waiting for the DR here. But anyways, I'm not good at freestyle, so I'm gonna teach you how to loop. Another thing I want to say is I call this the 2 arrow start. When you start the board, if you place an arrow above and below the cannon, your first 3 pieces are gonna come out to the right here, and sometimes you get this, a perfect load. I call it a free cannon because you literally just start off the board with a cannon. So above, below, and then all the 3 of the 4 pieces will start coming to this cannon. And a lot of times it leads to either a quick load or the first 2 pieces, or maybe if you're really good, you can do something like this, like that. And it's not exactly a free cannon, but you did get it. But in general, it keeps 3/4 of all the pieces to the one corner. They're all going to go here. And usually what most people do is I just tell them to lead this into an early loop like this, if you can, a double arrow 2 cannon loop like this. So you've got a majority of your pieces, if not all of them, going down here. And because this board's really wide open, you can see all the pieces are going to be in this loop. And from here I can just pick and choose what I want to put in the cannons. But definitely keep practicing this 2 arrow start, because as you get better, if you just try to learn this at ultimate or like legendary level and you're not used to it, it's going to be really fast. Like let's say like your slider bars here, right? You've got to be really fast, decently fast, not really fast, but you got to be pretty fast to get the arrows in time to not lose the pieces. I've done this so much that I can, it's like ingrained in my head the exact distance I need to move here. I mean, I can do it all day. I can go like this. Doesn't matter. I've done this so many times. I make it look really easy, but if you just jump into it at a higher level, you may not be able to time it right. Another thing I want to talk about was board sitting. So board sitting is when you keep hopping on and off boards, trying to find a board where you can get around all the cannons with 1 or 2 arrows. And I'm going to see if I can find one here. Work with me. This is a 2 arrow board. No, it's not. No, just kidding. Just kidding. It's a 3 arrow board. So I can find one. Okay, here's a 1 arrow board. So really wide open. These pieces bounce off here. I use this arrow, and this will loop the entire board. So this is like a board sitter's dream. There's 0 arrow boards, right? Where with no arrows on the board, the pieces will go around every cannon. Those are like the best. But this is really good. This is usually what people hope for when they want a board sit. You can just sit here and literally just wait for all the pieces to come around. You have to replace 1 arrow at a time, which means you can focus on 2 cannons without this arrow disappearing. And it's going really slow. Turn up a little bit for me. And of course in the Navy, this is going to mean you're going to have to clean them out too, but you probably noticed here that I broke the board to get this cannon. If your board sitting is okay, but if you're going to board sit and there's an optimal way to like break it up like this, do this. Right? This is still one arrow around 2 cannons, but the loop is much faster. You're not going to spend all your time waiting for the pieces to come back around. You need to optimize. What I always tell people, the 3 things in gunning that you need to work on is 1 is not wasting your time, 2 is your strategy, and 3 is the final key, which what I call taking you from like Grandmaster plus, and that's mouse speed. So like no matter what, right? If your strategy can be rock solid, and your time efficiency can be pretty good, but if you're not fast enough on the mouse, there's a good chance you'll never get past Grandmaster. Just being fair. So this is a 2 arrow board here. If you're gonna board sit, it's a 2 arrow. It's okay. If this is what you get, this is what you get. I don't recommend board sitting unless like you're on a sloop and you really need to get all the pieces. So if you're on a sloop board sitting, there's only 4 cannons and you have 4 cannons, so you'll always be able to load them. Whereas on a warp rig, it's going to shoot cannons, you may not get any, so like I think board sitting is very useless on anything besides the sloop. Or anything with 4 cannons rather, so a sloop, a dhow, a fanch. That's it. But if you're board sitting, when the ship turns, the barrel's going to move, so hit escape before the ship moves, and then unpress escape when it's done, and your barrel won't move. Because otherwise, it's going to go left, it's going to go this way, it's going to go right, it's going to go this way, then your barrel's here. If your barrel's here, you don't have a full board loop. It doesn't work that way. So that's that. My next thing I was going to discuss before I'm done is signs of a bad board. So if you're not board sitting, and you want to know what a bad board looks like, I'm going to try to show you some. So that was okay. This one is fine. Generally what it's going to be though, is going to be any piece where like, let's say like right above the cannons, like here, 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 or here, it's going to be like blocked off. So it goes in and out immediately, right? That means that you can't have pieces cycle past it because it's a dead end, right? I'm going to try to show you this example now. Let's see if I can get one without stretching this video out too long. Come on, give me one. Okay, perfect, right here. Now this does have an opening. You know what? Let's just show you it right. Let's show you it right. I'll show you a right one. Come on. Give me a good dead end here. And while I'm looking, I'm going to say another example of a bad board is anything where you can't like loop around 2 cannons at all. Oh, if you get a board like that, that is horrible. You want to optimally. I really like if I can't do this on a board, I consider it kind of bad. Right? So 2 arrows to make 2 cannons. That's what I consider a good board. But a bad board, this is a bad board. This dead end here, it's really bad. This is actually a terrible board because you have 2 of them. And this is always considered the hardest cannon in the top right, just because of how the pieces bounce. It's just like, you know, the pieces won't bounce into it naturally unless you put arrows into it. There's no way, unless it comes backwards, that it'll come through this board. But if I want to get, let's say I'm on the final piece and I need to get like the cannonball, I have to time it right, and they're gonna bounce back, and sometimes you'll just get completely out of order and whack. And this is what I consider a bad board. I think I said in the last video too, but if you're trying to get your stat up and you're like only doing on pillages, you're like, oh, this is so hard, do it on the Navy if you want your stat to get up. It's really hard to get your stat up on a ship because you have to do an extra step, and it's not really weighted fairly. At least I don't agree that's weighted fairly. So yeah, so sum it up, 2 arrow start, do it, get your pieces together, it's super worth it. Looping, do loops. This is a good example of a 2 arrow loop. Single arrow loops around 1 cannon is fine. You can do around 1 cannon, it works. It'll get you there. And know your bad boards. Get off of them. I will hop off a bad board. If a board's not good, I will get off of it. That's just what it is. If I don't like it, I will hop off immediately. You have about a 6-second period of looking at a board before it doesn't score it. So you hop on, You're like, oh, this board sucks. Hop off. Just leave. You won't get scored for it. It's okay. I've even loaded one cannon and hopped off because it looked bad. It doesn't. It takes a bit to score you. So if you think it's gonna ruin you, just get off and don't take the hit on your score. Anyways, this has been my intermediate guide. If you liked it, give me a like, share it with somebody. Let me know in Obsidian at Effect. This is my alt, EffectYPP, so add me at Effect. I also live stream sometimes on twitch.tv/EffectYPP. Have a good day, guys.